All right, man. Why don't we go ahead and get this show on the road?
All right.
Starting a little bit early, but it's all right. Are you going to start us off?
Oh, yeah.
I was yeah, let's just watch Rob type for a while.
Sorry, was getting a post out to our folks. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again tonight. It's episode 75 of the Update Log, and as Greg so nicely put it, I'm Rob, your host, and Greg's my co-host. How y'all been? How have you guys been? How about you, Greg? How you been?
Fantastic, man. Just rolling into these holiday months, excited as can be. Actually, Christmas.
Are you sure?
Well, Christmas is one of my favorite times of the year, really. But, you know, it's all the commercial thing kind of gets to drag you down. But otherwise, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so why is Christmas your favorite?
Yeah, I think it's just the vibes, honestly. I mean, people are generally nicer. Depends on where you go, I guess. I mean, if you're doing Black Friday things, then yeah, they're probably not very nice.
Generally nicer?
Hey, that's what I think. I think people are, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm generally nicer on the holiday season.
Are you saying you're not nice in general?
That probably depends on the person. I think I'm nice all the time. Every day, I'm like the picture of nice. You know, look in the dictionary, you find me. Nice.
All right, now you're going a little above and beyond there, but no, Greg is a nice guy, as long as I've known him anyway.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanksgiving, yes. Well, that's just all about food. I mean, for me, I just, you know, all the great food.
Yeah,
Christmas too,
man,
really. I mean,
yeah, it's literally the last 2 months. It's Thanksgiving, Christmas. You just eat. That's what I like. I don't care about presents. I mean, I don't get presents anymore. I'm an adult.
So my daughter and her significant other just bought a house, and
Yep.
they're doing a housewarming party on November 6th. I kind of feel like I get to have 3 special occasions this year for the holidays.
Yeah.
And then she told me today she's making one of my favorite things, like for entrees, which is bacon wrapped water chestnuts. I love them. They are fantastic.
Bacon wrapped water chestnuts.
I like
I've
bacon
had
wrapped
bacon,
asparagus
obviously.
too, anything you wrap in bacon's good. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's true. I believe I've had water chestnuts before. That's an interesting favorite entree.
Yeah, especially if you puree, you cover them in like a brown sugar mix, got a little sweetness to it. Bacon wrapped jalapenos, ooh.
Jalapeno poppers, yeah, those are good.
No, well,
those are good.
yeah, bacon. Well, jalapeno poppers have like a creamy middle, though, don't they?
Yeah, typically they'll have kind of a creamy center, yeah.
Cheese filling. Absolutely.
Cream cheese, yeah. It's typically cream cheese, yeah.
Yeah. See,
Okay.
I'm sold right there. You're making me hungry now.
Well, I guess for me, since we're on the topic of
Food.
now I'm thinking about it. Mac and cheese, a good homemade mac and cheese. I know it's super basic probably, but simple things done well.
Oh, Wow, that's you win. You have defeated me, Foxy.
I
If you
try to
make some
make
for
some
Gary
of that.
Con,
Gary Con. Okay, I'm gonna be a little jealous. Craig's gonna get to eat the mac and cheese.
no,
Or
not mac and cheese. I don't.
or
Maybe she's gonna,
jalapeno.
yeah, jalapeno. But you
Bacon
watch
wrapped
it.
jalapeno.
They're gonna be these super hot things that it's gonna be. I'm gonna be hoarse in the evening trying to run a game because I ate these
Probably.
things. That's okay.
How do
I'm
you do
eating
with
them anyway.
spice?
Yeah. I don't mind spice. It doesn't like me, but I don't mind it.
You're okay with it, just not the other way around.
Right.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, guys. Let's jump right into tonight's kind of conversation. I mean, myself and Greg have been kind of kicking around an idea. It's mainly my idea that he's been kind of like, okay.
I'm just along for the ride, man.
What makes a successful video game? Or a game in general? It could be a tabletop game, it could be a board game. But what makes a successful game? And I know that's a very open-ended question. I think my brain was like, let's do that by design, get the conversation flowing. But I feel like there are some objective measurements that we can point to
There's just so many ways that could go, because there's popular mantras, but everybody kind of has a little something different that they look at in a game.
Yes.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
For me it's builders. I love builder games, but if builder and story, those two things. And if you get a game that has both, where it's a really good builder game, you've got plenty of space to explore and do things, and there's an engaging story, it's like I'm in heaven. I probably would waste away playing that game.
Fair enough. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna jump right in to and answer my own question. For me, it is two major things. I realistically don't care about the name of the studio. Don't care more or less about the graphical fidelity, meaning it doesn't have to, be the latest and greatest.
But it has to have atmosphere, right?
Yeah, it's got to have some atmosphere to it. It's got to pick a setting and develop that setting. It's got to have a theme kind of wrapped around it. But for me, it's story and it's engaging gameplay. And what I mean by that, I'm going to draw a couple of examples. Let's say if it's a RTS, a real-time strategy,
right?
It's got to be the UI has to be easy to understand, easy feedback between my what I'm reading on the screen and what's happening, and easy control scheme. I really don't want to spend too much time trying to figure out how to play the damn game.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because there are a lot of games out there now that, the complexity to be able to play the game is, and maybe it's just me, but I'm kind of a simple person. I don't know why. If I got to spend 2 hours just to figure out how to play the game, I'm probably not going to play the game.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. That we, I brought up that you're expanding on is for a lot of players, excuse me. Yeah, that is very important. Do I need to boot up YouTube and find a YouTube tutorial to play your game? And
right.
You'd be surprised at how many times I've done that for games. That doesn't necessarily deter me, but I've noticed it over the last couple of years with certain games and certain genres, where there's nuance, there's levels to the game, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, why in the hell do I gotta go to YouTube to figure out how to play it? Why don't you show me the game, how to play it? You know.
Right.
So that's a good point. We got some responses from the audience. Let's tuck into those real quick. And again, guys, just whatever you feel, in your opinion, would make a successful game. Throw out your answers.
I got hung up on Foxy's statements. Talking about those jalapeno poppers, because I agree 100%.
Hey man, jalapeno poppers are really good, especially when done right. All right, so we've got. Harper says story, atmosphere, and replayability. Okay, yep. I mean, I understand story and atmosphere, and replayability. Okay. Can you explain to me why replayability? And the reason why I ask, Harper, is because there are indeed some games where, it's a one and done. Maybe one or two playthroughs. Although I have noticed a lot of games, whether they're multiplayer or single player. They do. I mean, most games nowadays implement an element of replayability. Whether it's a single-player game with a kind of multiple choice options, like multiple paths that you could take through that main story. That's commonplace now. But expand on that a little bit. We're waiting.
The worst idea of replayability is to just take and have you play through the same exact game, only on a slightly harder difficulty. That I don't know where anybody came up with the idea that was replayability, because that just sucks.
Okay, all right. That's. I agree. I do agree. But
by the time you've done that like 3 times, you're like, okay, now I'm gonna do the same exact shit I've done 3 times, only it's gonna be a little harder to do. I don't know. That's just not me. I don't like that.
I'll agree with you there. I think when you're replaying a game, and obviously you'll probably replay it on a harder difficulty. I think when you add an playthrough, you went with.
Lost your voice.
When that's done properly.
Okay, we got you.
Okay, cool. When that's done properly, it does mitigate some of that I've been here before feeling. Because I agree. Like if you're replaying a game, and the only thing that's different is it's harder. I've been here before, so it's. Right. Is it really? I mean, am I really having fun? Unless honestly, you like chasing achievements. That's another element with regards to that. The replayability aspect is you're replaying the game on a harder difficulty to get that achievement badge or what have you. So, and there's some people out there who like that.
Granted,
I mean, yes. I personally don't care. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't care about achievements. Depends. I don't think I go looking for them when I play games, but if I manage to do a thing, I'm okay, cool.
I agree with that completely. Achievements are whatever. I get some of them I don't. I occasionally will look to see what achievements are out there that I don't have, but I look without any interest whatsoever in actually going and trying to get them. So I just want to see what they are.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. So Foxy Project says UI is huge for them. There's one game in particular that I quit playing because the inventory system made my brain itch. Which one is that one?
Uh-oh, we're gonna call somebody out here.
I'm just curious as to the game because I can understand. I've played a couple of games where I'm like, what the hell?
The Forest. I can see that. I can see
Forest. That. Okay, yeah. I have played that. Yes, I have played that one.
I think The Forest is because there's that strategy, but that strategy to like upteenth degree. So you really gotta want to be into strategic play. And the inventory system is, mind-boggling at times. Yeah. Was inventive, you bet. It's got a real dark feel to it, so the ambiance is cool. It's just when you're playing it, it's, you get 20 minutes in and you're like, God damn, all I'm doing is trying to keep my character alive. And not in a good way. I'm not fighting things or anything else. I'm looking for medicine and food, and it's like this is too much like real life, I think.
Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Hold on, let's see. Let's go back up. Oh, okay. So Foxy Project, and again, we're reading through chat right, so we might be a little behind. Says one of my favorite games became so because you went to YouTube and watched tutorials. All right, now you need to expand on that, because some people hate that. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay, so also one of the other things that Harper said, and I'm assuming this is in terms of replayability, is that because games are so expensive, these days, $60, $70, you want to be able to replay it more than replay it to get your money's worth, and that's fair. Again, I think elements of replayability are baked into a lot of games these days. Whether if it's a multiplayer game, then yeah, I think replayability in a multiplayer game is inherently baked in. Like, was it Minecraft?
Well, it's just one.
Oh wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah, it's just one that she just brought up.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Let's see. All right. So the first time I played Minecraft, I logged into a friend's server at night and had no idea what I was doing, not a clue. Minecraft doesn't really have any built-in tutorials. You are correct. Yeah, they don't. You just get dropped into the world and away you go. But also shout out to Unholy Pawn and Brodicious. Didn't see you guys there, all quiet in your little corner.
Right. They're just lurking.
Yep. And you died 5 times in a row. Yeah, I mean, that's par for the course. But if you're not dying, are you learning though? Like, if you ain't dying, you're not learning. It's good. It's good learning incentive. Well, holy shit! 2,500 hours in 7 days. The game, not actual days.
Oh yeah, Foxy actually streams quite a bit of 7 days, so.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting stream to watch.
Oh, I bet. Okay, so one of the things that I would like to address in terms of, and again, this is all things that we've individually as players have come up with, saying what makes a successful game. One of the things commercially from more of a, in my opinion, an objective standpoint that we can point to as a success, as the games have been successful, or studios have been successful in their gameplay and game creation endeavor. One of the things that has came to mind as I've been thinking about this is longevity. Longevity of a studio, an IP, and the reason why, ironically enough, earlier I was watching the 30th anniversary of Warcraft. Yeah, Warcraft. It's coming up. It's not 30 years yet, but it's coming up to its 30th anniversary. The first Warcraft game. Actually, I want to make sure that I have it right. I know, as a matter of fact, it is. So Warcraft: Orcs and Humans was released November 15th, in 2 days. So it is coming up, yeah. And then I'm not talking about World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is coming up to its 20th anniversary. But Lonja, just imagine that. Imagine having something, something you created that's been out for 20 to 30 years.
And still going strong.
It's still going very, very strong.
Still a profitable IP.
Yeah. So I honestly, it's first of all, it makes me feel old. 20 years, because I remember I remember when Warcraft came out. I remember when World of Warcraft came out. Like, I vividly remember those games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Foxy hits the nail on the head with a comment there about commercially successful games have strong communities that love the game, and that is absolutely true. Every legacy game that's out there has that. How did they get there? Is
Yep.
in the case of World of Warcraft, not that World of Warcraft was the first MMO, but I mean,
No.
as far as an IP that's outlasted all the IPs of its generation, I guess you could say. I mean, it is kind of like the gold standard now.
It is like it, that. I mean, and here's the thing: it's for a little while there, it had been supplanted from its number one spot. I don't know if it's still the number one, played MMO out there. I know it's definitely one of them. I think it has reclaimed its number one spot. But yeah, it from 2000, from the early 2000s era, you had EverQuest, you had World of Warcraft, you had Final Fantasy Online. There were a couple of big names out there that were in the MMO genre. And World of Warcraft is definitely one of, if not the only one, that's really going strong. And when I mean strong, I mean it's still making money, like lots of money. Hand over fist. Whereas, games like EverQuest and I don't even know if Final Fantasy Online is still, the servers are still going. They might be.
One other one that Foxy brings up is Fallout 76, and for all the bad press that game, when it first launched, and rightly so, because it was definitely a step away from the fall, what the expectation of the Fallout series was. Not to mention the bugs and issues that they had, but I mean, the story piece was definitely a step away from that. But the community is what kept that game. If it wouldn't have had a strong core community of people that were, good-natured, willing to help new players, and really wanted to see the game succeed, it probably wouldn't have lasted.
No, I mean, I agree with you and Foxy on that one. Community is definitely the glue that keeps a game going. Like when you have an avid fan base, and here's the thing though, that I would say 9 times out of 10 that helps, because there have been some communities where it didn't matter, like the game wasn't doing well from a commercial standpoint, wasn't bringing enough money, it just it wasn't happening, and they get shut down. I mean, nowadays I think I don't want to say that happens more often than it did in the past. It certainly feels like it. And what I mean by that, you take a look at some of the games that have come out recently, Concord and some of the other ones, and they had huge production budgets, and they had some sense of a fan base, and they just didn't last. One of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head that I knew had a really good fan base was an MMO from Carbine called WildStar. Actually, Timothy Kane, who was a legendary game developer, I believe he was the creative director on that one. Had a huge player base at the start, had an avid player base throughout, and it just fell flat. The community, again, to piggyback off of what you said, Fox, the community is definitely something that has seen games through some rough times. One of the ones that comes to mind immediately is D&D, a game that we've talked about quite a bit. The community has seen that game through some pretty low lows. I remember there for a time, we'll say 2005, that 4th edition scenario, so 2005 to 2014, before that was 2014 being when 5th edition came out, where D&D really was, it was played, people were playing it, people were having fun, the game, wasn't dead or anything, but no one really talked about it.
Well, TTRPGs they have a secular nature just like everything else, where you'll go through a boom cycle where, they're really hot and everybody's buying TTRPGs. And then you hit a peak of that and then down on the backside of it. And if you really look at the market surrounding TTRPGs, video games as well, it just works that way. The oddity is the COVID era and the impact that had, because that was huge, and suddenly there was this huge bubble, that didn't fit in the normal cycle. So now it's a little crazy. The market's a little crazy, and now you also add into that the AI piece. And how easily, especially written content, like for TTRPGs, how easily people can generate, AI content and then turn around and sell it. I think that's problematic right now in the industry.
Yes.
The good thing is that you can, in that sense, I mean, most of your chat GPTs and all those things, I mean, you can tell. You read through it, and you don't have to read very much, and you can just tell, this is AI stuff. No,
and so Harbor says, World of Warcraft is still the top MMO. I figured that. I wasn't 100% sure, because I know, there's a huge player base for Final Fantasy XIV, and as you said, old school RuneScape. And that's another game when you talk about longevity and community and player base and just an avid fan base that just keep going. That game has been around for 20 years. Pretty sure it's 20 years or more actually. I believe RuneScape came out in 95. Old school RuneScape came out.
Old school RuneScape's old.
Yeah, I think that came out in...
I remember.
Well, it's saying 2013. I think that's its re-release date, because I know it was bought by Jagex. I can't remember the first one. I want to say it's 95, but I'll look that up later. And Foxy Project, there are a lot of games out there that are trying to rehash the old formula, kind of redo it and build off of the success of someone else's IP or the way someone else did it. And hey, if the formula, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if the formula works, I don't begrudge anyone for taking it and using it as a base, as long as they build upon it. don't just put out the same thing. Like, do something with that formula, improve upon it. But not to get too far down that rabbit hole. What do you guys think of accessibility as a success point? And except when I say accessibility, I mean things like, because let's be honest, we have folks out there, and while they are, for all intents and purposes, a minority in the player base, folks with disabilities, physical or mental disabilities, who still play. I mean, and I've seen them. There are plenty of streamers who have physical or mental disabilities that play games. Like, what about that? I know that's we have not
all right,
touched on that topic, and I figured why not.
So that okay, on that piece of accessibility, that totally depends on the player. I mean, honestly, that totally depends on the player.
I agree,
and rightly so, because I mean, if you have a challenge to being able to play a game, and the game is just not designed to make itself accessible to you, then okay. I mean, you're not going to waste your time with that game.
Absolutely, I would imagine.
So.
Yeah, I would imagine not. Yeah, but I mean that's one of the things that in my research has come up is accessibility for as many players as possible. And I will say that a lot of studios have been embracing that aspect of, hey, let's do what we can to make the gameplay mechanics and those elements accessible to even people who aren't your quote-unquote atypical gamers. Which, hey, kudos to them, because I think it circles back to what you said a couple moments ago, was the pandemic that really, I mean, everybody was stuck with not really much to do. So I think a lot of studios kind of sat down and like, hey, we're getting this feedback from our player base, from folks who want to play our game but can't for XYZ reason. Let's see if we can bridge that gap. I honestly would call that a success. Definitely a success, commercial and otherwise.
Yeah, and just to step that back just for a moment, and let's look at a particular segment, okay? And there's a fairly large amount of people who have photosensitivity or epilepsy, okay? And there's two options really for a game developer or a publisher. One is you design that into the game for people who have that challenge, so that they can change the options to be able to play the game. Or, and I think what happens more frequently is you just slap a label on it that says,
beware, hey, be careful. Yeah. I will agree. Again, it's not. I'm not going to say everybody's. Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I have seen that quite often where there's a label. Well, I've seen both, and typically as I've played more of the recent stuff, because I ain't gonna lie, I typically play more older games or games that have been out for a couple of years. I don't know, maybe I just find them more fun. Who knows? Whatever. But I've seen where they have the warning label, when you boot up the game, and then you go into the options, and they'll have an accessibility section, and for players to change up the options. So I think studios and publishers, as you said, are more mindful of that. I see it a lot more often in the last 5 or 6 years. So I do feel the pandemic had a very large part to play in that.
It did. Had a huge part. And when a large segment of our population was, told that they couldn't leave their homes, and what are you going to do? There's only so much TV you can watch,
Okay, so the original RuneScape was released in '98. Okay, I thought it was around the '90s. Yeah, So yeah, it's going almost 20 years. Got another.
I guess there are other
4
things
years.
that you can do because we are looking at potential record birth rates too. So I mean, there are things.
I'm sure there. Yeah, I'm sure there was some of that going on. But I had nothing else to do. Yeah. But Fox Pride says one of the best Madden players I've ever met was a paraplegic who had limited use of his hands. And yeah, and I do agree. I think it depends on the player, but making options of that happen is important. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is important. Because you have gamers of all walks of life. I mean, now, there are plenty of streamers and gamers out there who are older. And I mean, like, we're talking 60s and 70s older, playing video games now and indulging in that pastime. And so some of the mechanics are some of the fast-paced mechanics that they can't really get into because of older age.
Hey, watch it. Just don't be like that now.
I'm just saying. Oh, you're not that old, Greg. Don't worry about it.
No, I'm not. But here's the thing. I know some gamers that are older than I am that, or even in my age group, that when you're talking about challenges in games, faster paced games. I mean, okay, some people, sure, but there are others out there. I mean, I know a couple people that are right in my age group that just rock PvP and basically anything they play.
Yeah, like you get scrubbed by. This is one guy. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want to forget this. This is one guy. He's an older gentleman. I'm pretty sure he's a Vietnam veteran. I'm pretty, and because he plays, I want to say he plays Modern Warfare and I think Call of Duty. I think he plays either one of those two or both. And he's just nailing guys left, right, and center. And he uses a sniper rifle, just beating guys left, right, and center. And it's like that's got to be muscle memory.
Muscle memory? It's a video game, man. Come on.
Well, experience. Let's put it that way.
Why can't you just say that? Hey, that old dude is sharper than I expected him to be.
Oh no, he is. I love watching his stuff. I usually come across it on TikTok. I love watching his stuff. It's because it's funny, and he's absolutely hilarious with it. So if you guys just look up look up this guy on TikTok. It's fucking hilarious. And he is an older guy, and I mean he seems to be having no trouble keeping up with the younger folk on what you would typically think is a faster, more reactive game that it's definitely geared towards a younger audience.
I tend to think that, especially with, and I'm not saying yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with that assessment that it's geared towards a younger audience. But I think when it comes to like video games or games in general, age to a certain degree doesn't have to be a factor. I'll put it that way. It does not have to be a factor.
No, absolutely not.
It's if you choose for it to be or not. And some people just do. Some people, that's I don't know, their thing, I guess. Or maybe they are, maybe with age things have happened to them and they are more cognitively impaired than some others. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that studios are more mindful of these days. I feel like, and they're thinking about more, and they have, they're developing that into the game where that's kind of a baked-in piece, which is great.
I intend to be sharp as a tack right up until the very last second.
Until you're not.
Until I'm not.
Okay, so Unholy Pawn says, I gave up on competitive FPF games because I found to be good I had to keep my skill level up, meaning playing 2 hours a day. I noticed when I came back after not playing for a bit, it took multiple hours to get back where I was at. Yeah, I agree. for a while there, I played a lot of Destiny 2. And I did indulge in the PvP aspect of it. And yeah, like you're completely right, man. You stop playing for a while in that, and not necessarily the game, but in that competitive arena. It's like you stop. It's really very much like you stop. If you were a sports player, it's like you stop practicing and you slow down.
Now, but there's another element here too, because if you're talking about like a an MMO, which is a true multiplayer online video game, you also have to factor in that the game itself changes, and that's part of how they balance the game. As they put in new content, they'll go through and they'll change the back end piece to it. So if you're used to playing a certain way, it's not going to perform the same as you would expect it to. That happens all the time.
That is true. Especially with live game like MMO or even like an online co-op.
ESO is horrible about that because they continually go in and do that.
I think that is definitely okay. Now we're getting into another aspect of what we can say is objectively, in my opinion, a piece of a successful game is gameplay and balancing. And again, interesting and meaningful gameplay aspects. Like balancing PvP versus PvE. And I will agree with you, Greg. At least the last time I played, and I think it's probably the last time you played as well. When we were playing, ESO regularly, the balancing teams for both the PvE or player versus environment and PvP or player versus player elements of that game, it was like the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing.
See,
you know what I mean?
That for me, you could blame on age, because I really don't like to see things change like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's an age thing, because I don't like big changes like that either, especially when they make no sense.
I don't think anybody does, and that's it's to keep the game alive, and then it's also so that they can, when they balance it that way, so when they introduce new content, they can get people to focus on the new content. That way, the new content is the biggest and best thing.
It's the shiny,
right.
It's the new shiny. And I'm just gonna get on my small soapbox. I hate when games do that.
Ooh. I think maybe Bethesda heard him. We'll have to let him back in here. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I said Bethesda heard you, or whoever it is now that owns it.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
And now he froze. You there? Okay, no, you lost your voice.
I lost my voice.
There we are.
Can you not hear me anymore?
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Harper, can you repost your final message? Because I missed that one. I was just about to read it. But as I was saying, in regards to
taking off. He is.
I'm taking all the dev gods off tonight. Yeah, that's my job though. That's why we have these conversations.
That's why I said I'm just along for the ride.
Oh, so you're just blaming it all on me? That's fair.
If the shoe fits, man.
Yeah. So Harper says, I'm okay with changes as long as they give you time to actually play the game before they go making those changes. Okay, what do you mean by time? Plausible deniability. Fair enough. Yeah, what do you mean by time and enough time? Like what does that look like? But back to what I was saying while Harper responds to my question. I feel like from a design perspective, PvP and PvE need to be separate in terms of the design cycle. because they cater to a different player base within a game. You have, because I know plenty of players that I know like both, but I know quite a bit more players just in a general community. And again, it's community, it's game dependent, so it's not a blanket statement. But I know enough players in the communities that I'm in who just love PvE and couldn't give a shit less about PvP. But when you have a design team and a design paradigm in your studio that when you nerf or buff one, it affects the other, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
In the mechanics, because of how it has to be geared for the player base, so an actual player character versus an NPC, the mechanics don't work well to mix the two.
No, so, absolutely not.
Right, because you play one way for PvE, but if you play if you use that same style of play in PvP, you're
gonna get destroyed.
Oh god, yes, horribly.
You're gonna get destroyed. So yeah, no, absolutely, and going back to ESL, to Scrolls Online, they were notorious for that. They really were. And hopefully that's changed. I haven't played the game since years and years ago, and hopefully they've fixed that. But yeah, that was a big problem. One of the ironic things is, we're gonna go back here, is, and we've talked about gameplay for a while, and what do you guys think of story? Because I've actually looked up, so Black Myth: Wukong is one of the latest games that came out this year. Really well received, super popular. I mean, I think it's sold right now. Overall, Black Myth: Wukong has sold I'm looking this up, as of October 10th, 2024. Reportedly sold around 20 million copies across PC and PS5 as of October 10th. Now,
not enough.
Well, I mean, depends on who you ask. Depends on who you ask. It might not be enough, but that game is super popular. And here's the thing, though. Look at the story, and that's why I brought up the story. The story element, because it's from all the reviews and kind of player feedback that I've.
Yeah, he did. He's definitely not making friends tonight on the internet here. I have to agree on the story piece. The one differentiation that I would make there is, I mean, the way the story is told, because a lot of games rely heavily on cutscenes to relay the core of the story, and I much prefer that the storyline is playable, is something that you're engaged with, and not just, oh, you hit this point, here's a cutscene. Go ahead. Welcome back, Rob.
Thank you. Apparently the stream gods do not like me tonight. As I was saying, with regards to Black Myth: Wukong, that's a game where it takes it takes elements. First of all, it was created by for all intents and purposes, a new studio. Black Myth: Wukong was their first IP that they were putting out. Pretty much unknown studio. And it did commercially, from what I'm seeing, it did fantastic. I mean, it was even up for, and I think it's still up for Game of the Year. And it takes elements from Software, which is the developer of the Dark Souls games. So it's kind of in that vein, and it's a Souls-like as the term goes. But it doesn't really do anything super unique in that regard. It has some unique elements, but for the most part, it kind of follows that template. But one of the things that in my research that I've looked up that people routinely circle back to is that it's based off of a very well-known story in Asian, it's specifically Chinese culture. And if I'm wrong and it it goes past Chinese culture, please correct me. I don't I know the story of Sun Wukong loosely. And I know, he's been the inspiration for some of my favorite characters in other mediums, but I don't know the story in depth. So forgive me if I'm wrong in that regard. But yeah, people were saying the story is what really drew them in, aside from, the really good gameplay and stuff like that. It was more specifically the story of Black Myth Wukong. So story is, I mean, again, it was made by a very relatively unknown studio, and it's a new game. But the story was one of the driving points to the fact that it sold 20 million copies. And it's for all intents and purposes a Game of the Year contender, and it's a commercial success.
Well, something that Foxy says here, and that is, that people appreciate, the thing that people appreciate about it is respect to the source material. And I agree with that to an extent, especially when there are other games that came out over the past year that have a similar theme in a particular culture, and if you really look at that game, they really messed it up. I mean, they don't even have the architecture of the buildings in the game correct to the time period and the area of the world that it's supposed to be in.
For those of you who are trying to guess, Greg is hinting at a game that we've talked about in the past, and again, don't want to go down that rabbit hole. They're going to make the game they're going to make, and I wish them luck, but he's talking about Assassin's Creed Shadow. So the game is coming out, I believe, Valentine's Day. So, and yeah, he's right. Like they got the architecture wrong. They got some of the major elements wrong, and they really shouldn't have.
Well, and the whole idea was in taking liberties with it, but they did take a lot of liberties with the story in a historical context. And I think that would be more, you'd be able to overlook that a little bit easier if they actually got the basic stuff right, like the architecture from the area and time period that this game is supposed to take place. When you're supposed to be in feudal Japan and the architecture is
Chinese,
right? It's like what? Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Foxy. First of all, yes, people who know that stuff. Well, it's not just people that know that stuff from a historical standpoint, and then you have your player base who will, because they're a fan of your game, if it's taking place in a real world historical environment, are probably going to look that stuff up and be like, hold on, wait a minute, this here is a traditional pagoda, and that's not.
I think most people probably are not going to care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most people aren't going to care. Most people are going to be like, okay, they're saying this is Japanese, it's Japanese, whatever. Okay.
Right.
They're really going to like whatever. But you have some, and those some are going to be vocal about it, as is their right.
And I think they're
going to bring the attention to other people.
There's probably a large group of people out there that really don't even care whether it's Japanese or not. It's just they're going to see samurai and be like, yeah. All right.
Okay, it's Japanese.
It's Assassin's Creed, and I'm a samurai. Fuck everything else.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah, and you're right, Foxy. There is taking liberties, and there's not doing your research. Absolutely. Like I will agree with you. And again, not to go down that road, but yeah, if you're gonna take historical game and set it in a real world historical setting, do your research and do it well. Get it right, because for some people, and we've seen, and again we've seen what happens when you don't. when you just say, whatever, we're gonna we're not gonna do our due diligence. We're gonna do half measures on this. We've seen now
How
the
that works.
backlash, and Assassin's Creed Shadow isn't the first game to have that happen. So do your research, guys. And I'm talking to everybody. Do your research if you're gonna take something and place it in real world historical setting. And to Foxy's next point, it is true that Assassin's Creed, when it first came out, did set the bar high for
It did.
historical architectural accuracy. And it seems along the way they kind of said, you know what?
I don't know who they polled that the answer came back, yeah, we don't care about that. But
they polled the wrong people.
They did. They polled the wrong people.
Yep. They definitely pulled.
Well, especially when you've established, you've established the game as being something. You know what I mean? And then you create a chapter of it that is just not that.
It's not up to snuff.
Right.
Yeah. It's not up to snuff, man. And that is one thing I feel that another element, continuity. Continuity of quality within a. Not okay. We'll say for the sake of Assassin's Creed, continuity of quality within an IP. That's number one. But continuity of quality from a studio I feel like is another element that will that will contribute to whether or not your game is going to be successful or not. And guys, now we're shifting to more objective, more concrete elements that we can point to, and I think we're spot on. Again, look at using Assassin's Creed. They deviated from something that they used to do very well, and
maybe it just cost too much.
Well, that's another element. Cost of doing business, cost of making the game. Is
they had to lay that guy off, the one that does the architecture stuff. So
the one that double checks. He's the guy they go to be like, yeah, that's actually.
It's like, oh well, he's not here anymore. So what do we do now?
That's historically accurate. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, you bring up a good point, Greg. You have costs, and this is something that you're uniquely qualified to talk about because you in your professional life you've dealt with like cost analysis and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure. Fairly sure. So, I mean, yeah, when you paying too much to make a thing, you're expecting at the very least a return on your investment. So you're expecting to break even at the very least for most businesses, I would imagine.
Yeah, and there's no reason to dive deep into any of that, but it just comes down to there's going to be a production cost that's there, and how much that actually needs to be is probably the questionable piece, because there's some really good games that were built on much lower budgets.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Do you really need to spend $1 billion to develop your new game?
No.
And just because you spent $1 billion on it, does that make it any better? And I think the answer is no. I mean, you threw a lot of money at it, but that you didn't necessarily make a better game.
You didn't make a better game. It didn't sell any better.
Right.
Because here's the thing, from a business standpoint, again, we don't have to go all the way down that rabbit hole, but I think it's something that we all can understand. If I'm throwing money at something for it to produce money back, I would at least like to get the money I spent producing that back.
Shut up and take my money.
And you have a lot of games, you have a lot of shows who are spending buku money and they're not even getting their investment back.
Yeah, I was going to go there too with the the movies media that way, because there's a lot, and that's I mean there's a lot of films that are they're not successful from the standpoint of recouping the original investment in the time frame that they're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're not bad movies. You know what I mean? And there's others that they blew a whole pile of money on. It just sucks. It's just ridiculously stupid.
Dog water.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Foxy, you bring up a good. Well, so let's go back here. Sometimes moving away from what you are known for can be a good thing, but other times it can be bad too. Absolutely, Harper. You gotta do what you know, yes, but be innovative about it. Meaning, do what you know. Take best practices, what's worked in the past. But if you're gonna deviate, make sure you're doing your research on, okay, well, if we're going to do something new, let's see how XY studio did it and see if it works for us, see if we can replicate that success. But
yeah, there's a piece right there when it comes to that success piece. Two things on this. One is anytime you, and this is human nature, anytime you find the successful spot, like if you're a pioneer, you're an innovator, and you find the new way, I have this unique way. It's only going to be unique for so long, because everybody behind you is going to take that idea and run with it. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make it better. It's just you found something that's successful, and that becomes the easy path for all these other people to try to get the same success that you had. Sometimes they will make it better. They'll improve upon it. But that's usually only marginal, 5
degrees. Yep.
Right.
Yep. It's not. Yep.
And then, then the other piece to that, the story piece to it. And, you can spend a bunch of money on the graphics and that, sound and graphics and AI and all these things. And I'm not knocking any of those things. But if you don't take the time to make the story engaging to the audience, and I mean a really engaging story, not, you're just, if your whole intent is I'm just here to tell my story and I don't care whether people are engaged by it or not, that's not going to be a successful project. Game, movie, doesn't matter what it is. It's just not going to sell, because you have to do that. You have to put the time and energy and resources into making the story engaging. And actually, be able to touch somebody with it and get them to feel something.
Yep. No, yeah, 1000% accurate. And Foxy, I think continuity and quality influence how your game will be received initially. If you're a studio that consistently puts out amazing games, people will assume out of the gate that any game you put out will be good. Yeah. I mean, having that reputation of consistently putting out good stuff, that helps. Absolutely helps build your name and your brand and your reputation. But Foxy also said, I think when studios are focusing too much on high-end graphics instead of engaging stories and gameplay, they're burning money they don't need to, as Greg put it. Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. All the bells and whistles, the great graphics and the great audio, that's good. Those are good things to have, but they're not necessarily for engaging gameplay and story. You need very little for those two, right? So engaging gameplay and story doesn't cost that much. Does not cost that much. And I think a lot of studios, hopefully, seeing the current trends and if they're paying attention, are going to return to that mentality of, hey, look, let's get the gameplay right, let's get the story right, and we can worry about the rest later, as we go.
The indie game segment has proven that all the time. Yeah. And there's
especially over the last couple of years.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of media out there, even in the TTRPG world, where they've taken a lot of the newer games that are being developed, and I love the principles behind it, because the newer games that are being developed, and I'm not saying they're so much better than legacy games, but they're simplified, so they lower that threshold for people to enter the game, And they're designed, some of them, not all of them, are designed specifically to generate story, generate good story. So that's the formula right there to me. You want to make sure that you're not overcomplicating a product, whether it's a video game or a board game or a TTRPG, whatever it happens to be, MMO. Don't overcomplicate it, but at the same point in time, you want to make sure that it's engaging material, good story.
Okay. So one of the other elements that I want to get into, we've touched on this a couple of times, most notably with Foxy. One of Foxy's last comment about the reputation that your studio has built for your product, good or bad. We're going to say good. We're going to say your studio, you've continuously put out really good games, and you're a well-known entity. Your reputation is solid. The element that I want to toss out there now is marketing, because marketing is also another piece that studios and publishers and all that dump a lot of money into. And the marketing scene has changed over the last couple of years. Back in the day, you would buy, a commercial spot on TV or the radio. Now you have streamers, game reviewers who are streamers, YouTube personalities, Twitch personalities, in most cases both, they do it on both, who are buying and reviewing your games. And I mean, typically, from my understanding of that space, they're not getting paid by the studio to review the game. Most of those streamers, either they pay for the copy themselves, or the studio will give them a review copy. So it might be most of the game, or in some cases the whole game, just before it comes out. Again, I've never done that, so I don't know all the bells and whistles. I just know some of it. So that marketing, that's another thing that has changed over the years. And does that play a role in the success of the game? Because I've seen some games where there was no marketing and it did phenomenally well. And then you got games, okay, we'll put a spotlight on it was one game that just came out, Concord. That was a recent game that had some pretty, from my research, pretty solid marketing. Failed so hard that the studio closed. So what's y'all take on marketing? Why did the game fail?
Yeah. Poor marketing. Is that the moral of the story?
No, I don't think. I don't know. I don't know if it was poor marketing or not, or it was gameplay, story. I think the gameplay and the story pieces were the big factors there. Could have been marketing as well. Maybe they marketed it to be something it wasn't, and when people got their hands on it, it fell flat.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to see what some of the responses are there when it comes to the marketing piece. And Harper's response is that it can be good when done right, but it can also be bad if they overhype and then don't deliver. And 110%. And we've seen that. We've seen definite situations with that just here in the last year. I forget the name of the zombie game. What was that?
The
one they pulled the day after the day before. Yeah,
the day before, absolutely.
That was my joke a month ago, is they're going to re-release it as the day before that.
Yep, the day before. The day before. That is a perfect example. And yeah, you're right, Harper. It's good when it's done right. And let's dig into that piece real quick. When it's done right, what do we mean by that? From my perspective, when marketing is done right, it shows, for me, and again, that's my standpoint, my opinion, a good slice of the game. You know, a good marketing campaign for me is when you show some gameplay, show some story, and you're targeting. And I think that's the last piece I'm going to mention here is the most important. You're targeting your audience properly. You know who this game is going out to, and you're showing them good gameplay and a small hook of the story to get them interested, to be like, oh, hold on, wait a minute, that okay, I want to know more about that.
So marketing,
and yeah, be honest about what the gameplay looks like. Yeah,
marketing dollars in the sense of like media and ad marketing and things like that are rarely ever an immediate return on investment. It's a long-term investment. Because you're building brand awareness, or you're building awareness of the product, and you're absolutely hit the nail on the head. If the awareness you're building doesn't actually, if the product cannot live up to the expectation that you've established, then you got a problem, because that can backfire really, really, really quickly. And that, you know, all that advertising that all that money you've spent and resources and time that you've put out there could end up being a negative thing for you.
Yeah,
because that's
your unrealistic expectations. You've set the bar too high. You can't deliver.
That's.
I mean, one of go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I mean, simply put, marketing is building awareness. That's really what it comes down to. Now, more legacy products, so you have big companies which actually can turn a profit off of marketing dollars, and that's not a guarantee. It's not something that happens every time or anything like that. It's not like, hey, I'm going to spend $1 million and I'm going to make 3. No, that's not how it works. Now over time, maybe. I mean, you know, some legacy advertising that's Old Spice is a perfect example.
It really is.
Right. I mean, but those types of companies and advertisements, I mean, it's, you know, you focus the advertising for a window of time, and then hope that the volume that it generates during and after that is going to be enough to recoup your investment, and that you're going to be able to maintain the brand awareness. So people are going to continue to buy that product at a sufficient level going forward. And the thing with advertising is it's as with anything, when you stop trying, the impact starts to fade. So if you build brand awareness through advertising, you have to continue to advertise, or your brand awareness, and the minute you stop, the brand awareness will begin to subside. And your sales will decline, blah, 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 because it's artificially propped up with the advertising piece to it. Now, it's not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good thing, but you just got to be, you got to understand that and be prepared for how it works. And that's also why we have this cycling nature in every industry has this, where, every product has a life cycle, essentially, where, beginning stages is your pre-product launch, and you go out and you do your research, you figure out, how does this fit in, what need does it fulfill, what's the customer look like, who do I market this to. Then you begin that marketing piece. The product goes to market, and generally speaking, you're going to get that that immediate incline. So the sales will start, popularity, if the brand catches on or the product catches on, then you're going to hit a peak at some point. Generally, that peak of the cycle doesn't last very long, and you'll begin to see the downside to it. And that's the life cycle until you hit a certain level on the downside, where you're going to make a determination that, okay, yeah, this product is dead, or some products will flatten out, and maybe they're still profitable, maybe they're not, but that's also part of what then prompts the company or the brand to introduce a new product, kind of planned around that life cycle. That when you put a new product to market, essentially from the time it launches, maybe it takes 2 years. Maybe that's the average life cycle of one of our products is 2 years, and then it's on the downward side. So I know I have to have something new to launch in 2 years because this product is going to be dying and I need something new to carry the business forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harper brings up, well, let's go Foxy's first. Know your target audience and advertise where they are. It seems obvious, but yes, absolutely. It seems like someone somewhere ain't listening. Because it seems obvious to everybody, including just your average Joe player. It's like, you're not really talking to the people you need to be talking to. And then Harper says using Let's Plays has been a good tool for them, sponsoring a stream or even providing a free copy of the game for them to stream playing. Yeah, I do think, honestly, I think the marketing aspect of games has changed, and what I mean by that, they've gone to streamers, popular folks on YouTube and Twitch, to essentially advertise their game for them by word of mouth. Essentially, it's like, yeah, we put out advertisements for our game to make it look cool, but here's someone who's a video game player or a game player, whether it's TTRPG or video game, who plays these things, who's essentially one of you guys giving an honest opinion of the product that they've just played. Right. And honestly, I feel like if more studios embrace that, and I'm not saying they don't, but I feel like a lot of studios still err on the side of traditional marketing instead of really leaning into the streamer aspect of things. Like these are guys, some of the, obviously not all of them have millions of followers, but a lot of them do. A lot of them have, enough of them have millions of followers. Plenty of them have tens of thousands of followers. And again, that's tens of thousands of people that are playing your game or that are watching XY, person that they have developed a trust in, that they have aligned themselves with. And that's the thing about it, is that I think that the marketing folks at these studios, or just in general, aren't realizing is the audience that these individuals have built over the years, months and years, typically years, because it takes a while. These are people that align with them. These are people that align with their outlook, their perspectives, their tastes in games. Maybe not all the time, but for the most part. So they trust their word. So perfect example is, there's a guy I follow called Force Gaming. I've watched plenty of his Let's Plays. I like the way he reviews games. He's very honest, very upfront, what he doesn't like, what he does like. And he and I align. So yeah, you can bet your ass if he sits down and he says like, hey, I just played this game, just finished it, here's my review of it, I'm going to take it more seriously than I'm going to take the advertisement that the company put out.
But what if it's a really cool advertisement?
That, honestly, that's the thing.
I mean,
it might just be me.
Well, look at the most recent advertising, because the advertising that WoW did recently was pretty. That was pretty cool.
Pretty good.
Right.
It was pretty good. You were right.
Now, go ahead.
I'm probably not the best person to rope into that, because number one, I had also word of mouth, and number two, I was previously a really big World of Warcraft fan. So I'm the target audience. So that was helped in their favor.
I'm not on the review side to it. That's where it comes down to, because for instance, I occasionally will look at reviews, but I do not rely on reviews to make purchasing decisions. I just don't. And look at Cyberpunk 2077. And I got that game almost immediately, but
so did I. Didn't watch a single review. Pre-ordered that shit as soon as it came up.
But if I would have watched the reviews, I potentially would have been like, oh, I don't know, this sounds like it sucks because everything's wrong and it's broken and it's this and it's that, and it was a mess, but it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. I 1000% agree. I think. And now we're getting off a little tangent here, but I'm going to bring us back in a second. That game with regards to reviews, I don't think they did it. There was a couple things. Number one, CDPR definitely overhyped, underdelivered. That is without question. They totally did. But I agree with you where I
Right.
don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be. Yeah, did some people have a lot of issues? I'm not trying to discount anybody's experience. Some people have a lot of issues, absolutely. But I got it.
I just,
Pre-ordered it,
I'm
downloaded it day one, played it, no issues.
I'm having a squirrel moment here, man. I just have to. Something that Foxy said: gamers in the wild, as opposed to what? I mean, could we do gamers in the zoo? I mean, could we do gamers in captivity? What would that look like? Because that's gamers in the wild. I just love that. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, Foxy, that's a good point. And again, actually, this is kind of a chunk of what we're going to talk about here in a second, because obviously we just brought it up. Reviews versus advertising, like versus, because again, Greg, you say you don't do reviews. You don't do reviews, which
right.
I can understand. Because you don't want to taint. You don't want to taint your perspective on the game. Or the reviewer might be, be full of shit. I have an agenda. That's just not align with you.
Right. There's very few people out there that are doing game reviews that I just trust all that much, that I'm gonna watch their content and be like, oh yeah, this is horrible. If I'm interested enough to watch their content, it probably means I'm really debating on a purchase, and I'm not going to exclusively use their content to make that purchasing decision.
You're on the fence,
right? I just want to get a sneak peek of what it looks like, and I'm probably not even really listening to what they're saying about it. If they're playing it, I'm just watching the gameplay. Right? I could give. Don't care what their commentary is, because they have their own agenda, their own ideas about what's good and what's bad and what's what. And okay, yeah, that's the way you feel about it. Great.
And yeah, Fox Project says, I think a lot of studios do that because they don't understand the dynamic of gamers in the wild. Great comment, by the way. We need to clip that or something. Or games media. And Foxy, I'll agree with you. I don't trust IGN or any of those. Kotaku, I don't trust any of them either. And again, not to get down that rabbit hole, because that's a whole kettle of fish. But I will say this, in my opinion, they've shown themselves to be, and everyone has their biases, but to be biased in a situation where they shouldn't be. In my opinion, if you are out there to review a game, if you're out there to present your take on a game,
go ahead.
Yes, it's going to come with some biases. Even these, game reviewers on YouTube and Twitch, it's going to come with some biases, and I understand that. But you have to curb that with giving an honest and as objective an opinion as possible as you're putting out your piece.
You know what I think they have to do, since we're going in that direction and saying you have to do things? I think they need to shut the fuck up and play the game. That's what I think. Instead of trying to tell me what's good and bad about it. I mean, just play it.
Just go play it. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I don't trust any of the corporate game journalists anymore. They've again, in my opinion, they've shown themselves to be completely unreliable at this point, and I'm going to leave it at that. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Gamers in the zoo would be illegal. Yes, gamers in the zoo would be illegal.
Yeah. Are you sure? I mean, are you? We're wild gamers. I mean, come on.
I don't want to be in no zoo. Okay, let's just put it that way.
Are you sure that you're not already in a zoo? I mean,
I'm living in this world, so yeah, you're right. It's pretty zoo-like. But yeah, Foxy, to touch on that comment, she says, but I think the game studios look at those corporate review sites as gold when they really are. Oh no, absolutely not. Especially nowadays. They are very few people give them any credence at all. I mean, it's enough to keep the lights on for them, but I guarantee you, very few gamers really use those sites to see if they're going to buy a game. It's just they've lost credibility. It is what it is, man.
I'm not even. I have to be done with that conversation about the gamers in the zoo and in captivity. And, yeah. I just loved that comment. Gamers in the wild. That just, wow. All right. I think we should make a T-shirt with that. Gamers in the wild. I think that'd be a big deal. I think people would love that. How many people in the audience would be interested in a T-shirt? Obviously, we'd have to have some graphics or something on there, but Gamers in the Wild is a concept behind a T-shirt or a hat or anything.
Honestly, I think that would be a good merch merch option. Gamers in the Wild. Yeah, I'd wear that. I'd wear it. I ain't gonna lie, I wear
it. All right.
Gamers in that could conjure up so many different images. Gamer in captivity, but it'd be less fun.
But if we do it, we have to do Gamers in the Zoo too, or captivity. Do. I mean, something like that. Just to be funny.
Imagine a bunch of gamers in the hold of a ship with controls instead of oars. That's an interesting image for sure.
And here we have the wild gamer. Anyway.
Oh man, get Morgan Freeman to voice over a segment. Oh, that would be fucking top tier.
The wild Dark Souls player. He's a unique individual. A bit violent though. You best stay away from the cage. And
got show with a pizza box and a half-eaten Cheeto bag.
They spook easy.
They move too spook easily. Don't open the blinds because they don't like the sunlight. Lights off. Jesus Christ. All the stereotypes. Some stereotypes are good.
Some of them that might burn them. You're right. Got those vampire games out there. I mean,
don't tap on the glass. Oh boy.
So I think go ahead, man.
Go ahead, Greg. No, go ahead.
Well, we've talked about like a lot of the structural content pieces of games and developing games and creating a good game. We talked about the production costs and the cost piece to it, and we've kind of talked about we talked about reviews.
Yep.
Talked about profit.
Yep.
I think the only thing that we haven't really focused in on, and I mean we have talked about it because we're just the fact that we're players, but where does the player come into this whole equation when it comes to developing or creating a good game or a great game, let's say?
Fair enough. I feel like this actually circles back to the community aspect. I feel like players come in my opinion, at all levels. They come in even before the game is made, when the idea gets put out. When you're sitting down around that conference table, say, hey guys, we gotta put out a new IP, and we'll use that time frame, 2 years. We gotta put out something in 2 years.
Right.
What's the market looking like? What do players seem to be looking for, but it's not out there yet? What do people seem to want? And I feel like that, getting an idea of what your player base. Let's say we'll pitch the hypothetical. You're an established studio. You've had successes. Paying attention to what your player base wants, and listening to them. Taking the wins and the losses from the last games that you've played. You've made, and keeping note of that. And be like, okay, well, they like this, and this, but this they weren't too happy about. That was a fail. That wasn't good. What can we build from that? Maybe build off of an existing IP, a sequel, or maybe branching off and doing something new. But keeping in mind those elements that your players didn't like or liked, and building off of that. Because one of the things that we've personally seen, over the years, is building, people wanting to design something for themselves is not the same as building something for your players.
Right.
And just because you build it for yourself doesn't mean it'll sell well. And here's another aspect to that. Because, comparing the two, building something for yourself, building something for others, building something for yourself, you might like building. You might have a blast building something for yourself, but building something for somebody else to play might not be so fun. As a developer, you keep that in mind. That's kind of where I'm starting that conversation at.
Well, and you have a lot of creatives out there that, I'm going to say, I don't want to offend anybody, but it really comes down to, they have the misguided idea, because there are a few visionaries out there in history that have created their passion, and it just so happened that their passion caught on.
Yeah, is what people wanted. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Generally speaking, that's not how it works. If you're going to make you have to create, and you can create your passion to an extent, but you have to understand how what you're creating fits. Where does it fit in a person's life? Does it fulfill some need for them? Because if it doesn't, then they don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're not gonna catch that wave.
Right. So, but I think a lot of people approach that the wrong, and I'm not talking to big game studios. I'm talking about people who are just trying to, break in and create a product, create a thing, because they're not really, they're creating from in here, which is great, but you also have to understand where that product fits. You have to understand what is your market? Who is the person that you're creating this for? If you're just creating it for you, you're probably never going to sell it, for sure. I mean, maybe a couple copies, but it's not going to be the big thing that you want it to be. Maybe you don't want it to be that. But, if that's the idea, is, hey, I want to write a game and I want it to be a successful game, or I want to develop a game and I want it to be a successful game. Yes, it has to have passion, but it also has to fit in the marketplace. You have to know who your customer is, and you have to know what need that product fulfills for them.
Yep. And just as Foxy Project said, man, what need is this thing you're creating fulfilling? Absolutely.
Right.
And going back to their earlier comment, you have to know your player base. Absolutely. And I think that's why that community piece, that community building, needs to begin even before before you start the development process. Get player feedback, get an idea down, get something on paper down, get the things rolling. But as soon as you can, start putting that idea out there, and I believe it's called I believe it's called a vertical slice. There's an interesting term for it, and I think it's a vertical slice. Basically, it's a very small segment of your game, of what's out there. And the thing with the vertical slice, and I'm getting into techno aspect real quick. A vertical slice, if I'm remembering the proper term for it, because there's two different ones. It's a small segment of what your game's going to be like in terms of gameplay, in terms of story. It has story elements in it, has the core elements in it, and it gives the player base an idea, and that immediately gives you its feedback, immediate feedback. And that's honestly, as a creative, that's what you need. Whether you're creating games, movies, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's what you need. That's why, from a entertainment standpoint, from TV shows, why do you think every episode is called the pilot episode? That's your feedback episode, and typically typically people before it's been released have seen it. Like you have,
I gotta listen to it too. What?
Industry folks. Yes, you have to listen to it. Damn it. But yeah, Foxy, you're right. You have to listen to the fucking feedback, man. Adjust as needed. And here's the thing, and this and you hit on a perfect topic there, Greg. Creatives. That is very hard for creatives to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is to take feedback when it's going to pull them away or where it's going to change their vision.
Right.
You got a lot of folks that get stuck on that vision and don't want to budge, and it's like either you want to create your vision, or you want to create most of your vision or a semblance of your vision, be successful, make some money, and then have enough to do that again.
And that's
because your vision ain't gonna pay your bills.
100%. I think a little bit of it, what comes into that, and I'm going to say it this way. I think a little bit of what comes into that is the need for humility. You have to be humble, and understand that, because most people are going to tell you, I want both. The problem is they know the vision piece, because that's all right here and right here. They know that part. Yeah. They don't know the other part. So they don't know how to get both. And so they convince themselves, because they lack humility. This is just my opinion. They lack humility. So they convince themselves that if they just do the vision piece,
people will see it. They'll get it. Well,
right.
If I get it right, they're going to get it.
Right. I think most times they know in here that's not going to work. But do it anyway.
I agree with you.
So
I agree with you. I think a level of humility as a creative is needed. And it's not that your vision is bad. It's not that it's not it's not good. But again, you're not creating, when you're creating a game, you're not creating for yourself.
And it could be
at the end of the day, you're not creating for yourself, and you have to accept that. Like you're creating, hopefully you're creating something you want, more or less. I feel like, again, 80-20 rule, hopefully, what you're putting out there is something that you want to be working on, you want to be putting out into the world. But you have to understand the end user is really not going to necessarily just be, is not going to be you, because I'm sure you'll probably play your game, but it's not just going to be you.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is that you can't see yourself the way everyone else sees you, or exactly. even whatever the product is, whatever that passion is that you have, you can see it your way, and you're going to see it with all of your bias. So the cognitive bias piece comes into play, because this is what I love this, I created this for me, it's the best thing in the world. And someone else may be looking over your shoulder like, oh, what the hell is that?
What the fuck is that? Oh, what the hell is this shit? Is that what?
The ugliest thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I think a level of humility and adaptability, because you can still create what you want. Is it going to be exactly what you want? No. But I think anybody who's going into the creative space, and this is, again, my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. For those of you who are listening who are looking to get into creative endeavors, whether it's games, whether it's music, movies, whatever, be humble and be adaptable. If you feel like you've hit on a good product, a good vision, you have something there that you think would do well, make it. But be open to feedback and be open to adjusting.
Right.
You won't, because here's the thing, and this is something that I don't think a lot of creatives, really take to heart. Maybe not, especially initially, is you won't have to scrap the whole thing. Chance of you having to completely scrap the whole thing and not make any piece of it, slim to none. Might you, at worst, you're probably gonna have to get rid of half of it. But more likely, you'll probably cut out 20%. Again, the 80-20 rule, you'll probably cut out 20% of that. And you'll be able to make the other 80% of what you wanted. It just might not be exactly what you envisioned. But that's okay. That's all right.
What? And make it basic to start with.
Yeah.
Don't pour all of your time and energy and resources into I have to make the perfect world or I have to make the perfect thing. Just don't do it. Make it basic. Make it basic. Get it out there. Just get it out there. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. And once you get it out there, that initial concept, that's when the true market research begins, because then you're going to get true feedback on what you're creating. So you want to get a basic version out as quickly as you can. You don't want to put garbage out there, but you want to make sure that it's sound mechanically. You have a good route to the story piece to it. It doesn't have to be all the story, but a good route to the story. Get it out there, get it moving, get it into people's hands, and then's when your market research starts, because then all you have to do is listen to what people are telling you.
Yeah, you don't got to say a word. You just got to sit back and listen. Like, okay, this is what our player base wants. And here's the thing. And Foxy, I think you said it earlier in the chat. Make what your players want to see. And a lot of game studios these days. Oh, okay, a lot is an exaggeration. Notable game studios, let's put it that way. And I'm not going to name no names, but notable game studios are not putting out what their players want to see, and it shows. And they're taking knocks for it. Hopefully, it's wake up calls for some of them, where they can be like, okay, well, we thought we were doing what we were supposed to be doing. We were not. Let's take our bit of humble pie, get back to the drawing board, and course correct.
Well, play testing, beta versions. When I say get it out there, I'm not necessarily saying go right to publish. You don't have to do that.
No, yeah,
you
absolutely
could
not.
do that.
Absolutely not.
You don't have to.
Get beta testing, get alpha beta testing, get feedback. Get feedback along the way. And here's the thing. One of the other things, and I think this goes back into that more production line piece. Does a game really should a game take 10 years to make? And I know the whole saying, we'll put it out when it's ready, but I feel like, and obviously this is dependent upon the game, but I think this goes hand in hand with the production cost and the team size, where games are just too long. I feel like they're, for whatever reason, games are taking way too long to come out. I think for most games, 3 to 5 years, that's a good ballpark.
Sometimes that might be too long. It just depends on the complexity of the game.
Yeah.
What is the size of the game? How complex is it?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not the be all end all, just my opinion. But I think, and it's not because they're taking their sweet ass time. I think it's those other elements that I mentioned: production cost, team size. All of those elements get wrapped up to leading to a game that takes 7, 10, in some case more. I mean, we've seen games that have come out recently. It took more than 10 years. There's a game in current production right now called Star Citizen that is going on 12 years and over $500 million in production cost. And I'm not trying to knock them. I've seen some of their stuff. I've played some of their stuff. I get the vision that they're going for, but it's like, that's a long time.
It is
a long time and a lot of money. So I honestly, and I'm saying all of this because because the metric for the studios, for the shareholders, for the business side of things, and I'm not knocking on them because that's important. For them, it's the numbers. It's how much did this cost us to make? How much did we make back? Did we make a profit? Do we have enough capital where we could potentially continue this? Was it profitable? Those are elements that they're thinking about, and they should be, because it's a business. They have to be. And I think that side of the fence would go a long way to improvement if certain things in the pipeline development from various sides were improved upon. It's just my 2 cents. And whatever those improvements are going to need to be are going to be studio dependent.
Well, those two things should be providing checks and balances. The unfortunate part is that they, because they become adversarial in nature, they're not. They, ultimately both of those sides of that coin are headed in the same direction: is get the game developed and get the game to market. But yeah, they do tend to become adversarial of each other, and I think that really is where the leadership of the team comes into play. Because when you look at some of these things and you say, okay, you had 10 years and you spent $800 million, what is going on? That's or 10 years and $1 billion. Why don't we have a game yet? Why are we still sitting on this? And that's an important question, and it should be an important question on both sides of that coin. Not just from an investor standpoint. That should be an important question on the development side too. Is what are we doing? What did we do wrong that 10 years later we still don't have a game? And $800 million spent, and we haven't made a dime yet. Nothing. So what's the problem here?
Yeah. Yep. And again, not trying to preach, but that this goes hand in hand with the conversation that we've been having all night. Excuse me. Is that's a sex piece, and I think I think there is room for improvement across the board.
There is. Well, an understanding between the sides, and please do, if you're if you are a developer, a writer, an artist of any type working on I'm going to say any media project, especially in the games industry, where that's where we're at. We're passionate about that. Be understanding of not only your customer and the audience that you have, but be understanding of the people around you, the people on your team. We deal with a lot of fantastic artists regularly, people that are in the industry. I was just talking with Oz Mills the other day, and it's amazing how much effort goes into something. And he's a writer, and the guy writes like 5,000 words a day, and it's amazing how much effort goes into creating the content that's out there.
Yep.
So when you look at some of these projects that just seem to take forever and ever and ever and ever, it's like, okay, why? What are you doing? What's going on? How many times have we changed the idea now? There's something that just needs to not be there. Why? So we are rolling up on 2 hours, man. So it's been a little while since we've done a 2-hour stream for the update log.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. I had a great time with it. I'm glad you guys seem to be enjoying yourselves as well. But yeah, I think that that's kind of it for tonight.
So we do have a couple other things to talk about. So we have book 7 of the Wheel of Time. It's going to be coming up here.
Yeah.
As soon as Rob's done reading it next week.
Yeah, we probably shoot for next week. Yeah.
Okay, we can aim at that. It's another exciting chapter in the story, so we'll aim for book 7 of the Wheel of Time next Thursday, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
We also are going to have for now, probably a one-shot of The Walking Dead. Cast is ready, working on story and getting the back-end development done, but we are going to do at least one Walking Dead stream, depending on how folks... Hey, if people like it, players like it, audience likes it, then maybe we'll make it into something more. We've also, I've looked at some ideas about how we could stay true to the sense of The Walking Dead and actually offer some opportunity for some like walk-on roles for people to actually be able to join us for an episode. I was thinking about using channel points to do that, by the way.
Okay.
And we are getting closer, but I keep mentioning it because it's out there. It's under development. It's just not ready yet. We do have a straight-to-video Symborum story that we're still working on. That is coming up.
Yes, indeed it is.
That's about all I have, unless we're doing the Christmas special where Rob dresses up in the maid outfit.
Not happening.
Oh.
Nah, Santa ain't bringing that to nobody's list. All right, let's get that straight. Nah.
I see. You're chicken. I got it.
Yeah, I am. I don't look good in a maid outfit.
All right.
Okay. I've never been in a maid outfit. I never want to be. I just know I'm not gonna look good in it.
Yeah, me neither. Don't have any of that desire. Unless the maid outfit is a black T-shirt. I mean,
yeah.
Some maids work in black T-shirts. I'm sure somewhere. So.
Just a gut feeling, Foxy. Just a gut feeling. But yeah, I think that's all we got for tonight. This has been episode 75 of the Update Log, guys, and thank you guys for chiming in, giving your 2 cents on the topic at hand. I wish you guys a good night and a good rest of your week.
And yep. Thank you everybody for being here tonight. We're gonna go ahead.